Hello and welcome everyone to the Business of Forging Agreement. I am here with John Worthington, the author of Office of Shaman, and I'm Lenore Sterner. And today I'm going to be asking John about the difference between responsibility and obligation. Now, before we get started, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and make sure that you hit the bell icon below because that can make sure that you stay up to date on all of our latest videos. Links for this video can be found in the description below. So, how are you doing, John?
Well, I'm pretty good. We're in a state of disarray at the moment, and you see what people wandering around in the background. They're doing things like uh, cleaning up computers and downloading things, and well, it's been one of those kinds of days, weeks actually.
It's been one of
Yeah.
those kind of years
Yeah, yes, well, it has been so far.
so far.
But it's ending. So we're only a few days away from the winter solstice, and so things will change then one way or the other. It could be worse, but I don't see how. But I don't want to see how. We've had a pretty interesting year here so far.
So far.
Yep.
Alrighty. So, John, why don't you fill us in on the difference between responsibility and obligation? Because I know you talked to Terri the other day about responsibility, but obligation is something very different, right?
Yeah, it is. The easiest way for me to explain this is that I can't be responsible for you to go to the bathroom, but I have an obligation to show you where it is. Okay. In other words, I can't do it for you, but I can say, if you go over there, or it says little boys or little girls' room, and you open that door and you go and say, you'll find a bathroom in there where you can do what you got to do. And see, that would be an obligation on my part, which is to tell you that the responsibility is all yours. Mm-hmm. I can't do anything for you in that regard because that's only you can do it. It's like when the doctor lifts your eyelid up and to see whether your eyes expand. That's a response. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so responsibility is that I respond for myself. I have the ability to respond for me. So I go to the bathroom for myself like a big boy. I eat by myself anymore, pretty much. Mm-hmm. I drool some stuff, but it doesn't. It's not noticeable. You just usually have napkins.
They make bibs for that.
Yeah. Well, we're not quite there yet, but anyways, I have to do that for me, right? Mm-hmm. You can't do that for me. You're in Pennsylvania and I'm in Mexico, so why don't you eat a brownie for me?
I'm not quite sure how that would work. It might not make it into your stomach. It might hang out in mine, but it can't go to yours.
Right. So that's the difference between responsibility and obligation. Now, people have a lot of trouble with responsibility anyway. It's like they say things like, I shall take responsibility for that behavior that I realized, perhaps, which is pretty silly because the fact of the matter is that you're already responsible. See, that's the problem, is that if you did it, it's yours. Simple as that. Mm-hmm. Obligation, however, is something that you do for somebody else. Something that you're obligated to do for that other person. And that's where we get into trouble because we don't think we have any obligations to other people unless we owe them money or they owe us money or we've gone to work for them or some other silly thing of that nature. And the reality is that we have obligations to people on all manners of levels. Mm-hmm. That's really true. It's like you have obligations to your baby girl.
I do, yes.
You're responsible you have to be responsible and fulfill your obligations, mm-hmm. but you can't be responsible for her.
Right.
Even though you actually are responsible for her, right?
Legally, sure.
Yeah. Well, in other words, there's certain things she can't do or decide for herself. She doesn't have the experience or the age or whatever, however you want to think about it. But mm-hmm. she can't really do that on her own, see?
Right.
Okay, there's a lot of things, like she can't fix her own bottle yet. She can't get up and go walking yet. Almost. Almost.
Almost.
You know, give her another 13, 14 minutes or so. She'll be able to do that.
It'll feel that way, I'm sure.
Maybe she'll feel quicker than that. Like, oh man, wasn't it just last night you were crawling around and now you're walking? That time to maybe prove all of the bad things under the sink.
Yes. All of the things, because she's interested in everything.
Well, of course she is, because she doesn't know what any of it is.
Mm-hmm.
So she doesn't know what's interesting and what isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's really a pretty nice thing, a pretty nice problem to have when you're her age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have to be responsible, and because you have an obligation to protect her from what she'll do to herself by not understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a major difference between responsibility and obligation.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's a rather clear-cut difference. I guess it isn't to a lot of people, but it is to me.
Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of sense to me. I always think about how at the beginning of a flight, when you get on an airplane, they talk to you about your mask, your oxygen mask, and how you have to put it on yourself before you try to help somebody else. You're responsible for making sure that you're okay so that you can do things for other people.
Yeah, because if you run out of oxygen, you're not going to help anybody.
No, because then you'll be passed out and then someone else has to help you.
That's right. So that's kind of like a vicious circle or cycle or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I was telling you before we got started here that the one thing I've been hearing a lot lately is people saying things like, why would you go help your family? You're not responsible for them.
Well, see, the actual correct answer for that is because I want to.
Yeah.
Okay. But perhaps it's actually a real thing that you have an obligation toward them to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a possibility, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think have on any of these episodes, has the American core of individuality, has that been something that's been talked about on here?
It has been sort of, but not really in depth, because we don't really people don't really understand this core of individuality thing. They just don't. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's related to responsibility, obligation,
Mm-hmm.
social interactions, all kinds of stuff. Okay. And here's what that's really about. Well, here's what I think it's really about. How about we do it that way?
Okay.
This is what it's about. In my world, it's about the following. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Look. We have a tendency to think that we are born a certain way and we act that way no matter whatever else is going on. We're just born that way and that's how we are. Right? We really think that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact of the matter is that that's not true. Because a lot of that core of individuality is nothing more than a dumb program that we wrote when we were 3 years old.
Okay.
Okay. Let me see if I can illustrate that one a little bit. Okay. I mean, I've got several illustrations of different people, right? But let's take a fellow that I know that when he was little, he had a relatively traumatic experience, and he didn't want to talk to anybody in the family about it because he didn't want to cause any problems, especially for him. And so he never mentioned it. And so that has led to him leading a life of something of a half-truth life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in other words, he can't ever really tell the whole truth about anything. Because if he does tell the whole truth about anything, then what happens is that whole truth that he tells about the thing actually becomes then something that somebody else might believe in, and they would act accordingly. And then to come to find out that that half-truth was really not the whole truth and nothing but the truth. It was anything but the truth, really. And so the thing is that that individual then lives in a world of mistrust and people saying, yeah, I believe you, dude. Sort of. Can you prove that thing that you're talking about? Oh, you can't? Okay, then go away. You bother me, little boy. Because that's really the only place that grown people can deal with it. See?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's part of the deal here, is that the people who believe in a core of individuality seem to protect that at all costs. I mean, they just, they're ready to go to war about anything that says, you can change that core of individuality if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. Well, that's who I am. No, it's not who you are. Who you are is something else, actually. And it's who you are is actually accomplishes a lot more than this core of individuality entity that you're talking about does, because it doesn't have to work at it, that who you actually are. Mm-hmm. Because if you have a gift about something, you don't. Here's an example of this. Do you think that well, let's say Jimi Hendrix is for instance, that's an old-timey guy here. Do you think that he was born saying, Mom, I want you to get me a guitar because I'm gonna beat the living bejesus out of it? See, I don't think that happened. I think that he found out that guitars were really a nice thing, and so he played it so much he would take it to the bathroom with him. So you see, what he did is that he didn't have to work at playing music. It wasn't something he had to work to do. It was something he played at. That's the reason why we call it playing guitar or playing music, because you have to actually do music. You have to play at it. You can't be good. Those guys that you say, okay, there's the notes, and they have to be. That's an eighth note and a quarter note and a quarter note and an eighth note and eighth note and eighth note and eighth note, and this is a 16th right here. There's a whole of 16ths right there. You got to do them all. Mm-hmm. Those guys really miss what the music's about. There's nothing. I mean, they're technically correct, and they can raise and lower it in an emotional sort of way. But the guy who just hears it and says, "Okay, look, this is the feeling I have at this moment." He plays it differently. B.B. King is an example of that. I mean, he plays that same thing a lot, or did. But the reality is that he didn't play it according to the rules of the road. He played it according to the way he felt about it. He even went so far as to say that his guitar played the song, that he didn't. I mean, really, he had that attitude about playing guitar. He said, the guitar is going to here. Let me see if Lucille will sing it for you, or he'll play it for you. He named his guitar Lucille, which is a long story as well, but that's really true. But the thing is that he played it because that was something that he did not as a core of individuality, but as a gift that he brought with him from birth. Mm-hmm. Was how to hear that particular sound to give that particular feeling, and how to express that feeling. And you can't really do that by hitting the notes right, not the way that he did it.
So that would be his specific function then?
Yeah, we could say that. We certainly could say that his specific function was to play guitar. That would, but see, the thing is that specific function is like this whole big ball of wax, right? Mm-hmm. And he could have been a concert pianist or a concert violinist or a hillbilly picking violin, a fiddle picker, or he could do he could have been a bass player. Mm-hmm. He could have done any of those things. See, he could have played saxophone or trumpet, but he decided on guitar because that was the place that he wanted to live. It had a nice view for him. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so that really has a lot to do with this whole thing of the core of individuality, because the one that we call the core of individuality, us non-B.B. King people, is not the same as that guy that was playing music full time. It just isn't. Mm-hmm. Okay. they're not working. I think Dire Straits even sang a song about that. This ain't working, this, got to sell them color TVs and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because see that's the whole thing is that it's not work, it's play. Mm-hmm. And people who do something that they enjoy, they play at it. They don't work at it. They play. They have a good time at it. They say, well, yeah. And it's like they don't work 8 hours. They work until the job's done. They work and the reason why they work that long is because they really are having a good time. They're enjoying themselves. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so you see that's part of that obligation idea that you're asking about too. I think is that people have an obligation to themselves. I think to identify what their specific function is and what they do best, because that's where they're going to be happiest and make the most money and so forth. Mm-hmm. Even if mom says no.
That just reminded me of the conversation I had with you recently, where you were talking about how you love what you do and you find it very fun.
I do find it fun. Why do you think I would do this if I didn't find it fun to do? It allows me to use my entire life as a library of subject matter that I can bring up and talk about because I've had these experiences. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason why you haven't had them is you ain't 75 years old, sweetie. You ain't got there yet. You're just now starting the baby thing. I've been there and done that. So yeah. So I can talk to you about how I saw that as I went through that ignorant stage of not understanding what I was doing. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's my obligation to explain these things that I've already learned to you. Not that to tell you that this is how it's done or this is what you have to do, but I have an obligation to say, okay, look, think about it from more than one perspective that you've got. Because if I just agree with you that your perspective is correct, I'm not really doing anything good for you.
No, because there's other perspectives, assemblage points, if you will, to try on.
Yeah, there are. And it's like that's really the concept here is that you really want to kind of find a place where you can say, all right, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to enjoy this place that I'm best at, that I understand. Mm-hmm. And it's like it's some work to get to there. It is. Mm-hmm. This isn't a wiggle your nose type of thing. This is work to get to those places. Really, it is. Mm-hmm. Ooh.
I've been being really good at that whole not needing a fire hydrant tonight thing. So we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, there you go. See, there you go. All right. Well, kid, I just think that you need to slow it down and look at, look, opinions are kind of like noses. Everybody's got one. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that doesn't mean that what they've got is really worth anything. It just means that's what they have an opinion, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I tell you it's my opinion, I expect that you'll deal with it just like that. It's like, mm-hmm. It's an opinion. Yeah, it is. I don't know shit about that. It's just my opinion. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that when you're trying to figure out what you do, you have to go with your opinion. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, for instance, what do you think is your best thing that you do?
The best thing that I do.
Yeah. What is it that you're getting at with your core of individuality? Oh. Got the awnings.
I think that I'm really good at getting groups of people together to do stuff.
Well, you see, I don't know that can actually be a skill set. I mean, it could be. I don't know that it is. Okay. Okay. Because I think that it has to be something more personal for you.
Okay.
It can't be in what somebody else does. It has to be with what you do. Because
Okay.
that's really what you're trying to figure out, is what you do, not what. And it's like, even though it looks like, well, I'm getting these people together, actually you're not, because they're all responsible for themselves.
Okay.
You may have an obligation to get them together, but they're responsible for getting together themselves. You have to say, okay, this is the time we're going to meet. And so they're either going to come and do it then, or they're not, right? But they're the ones that have to do that, not you.
Okay.
The true thing.
Yeah.
Yep, it is.
Okay. So what is it that I do?
I don't know. What do you do?
Well, I am very good at giving massages. That is the one thing that just popped into my mind.
Okay, so you give massages. Okay, that's something that you do. But now then, what is it you're doing with that? What do you actually accomplish when you do that?
Well, I'm accomplishing getting that other person to relax and get to a place where they can actually get through whatever it is they're going through, whether it's pain or they just need somebody or
Okay.
it's hard to describe
Yeah.
what it is that I do because I just
Okay.
do it.
Okay, yeah. Okay, now let me help you out with this. Yes, and the reason why it's hard to describe what anybody does is because they don't do it with consciousness. Okay. See, this is the problem with obligations and responsibilities. We all think that that's a conscious act, and it isn't. It's just, things of that nature, it just simply are not and cannot ever be conscious. Now, can you explain to me why?
Because all of our thinking is starting down at the belief level and filtering up to consciousness. So,
Well, sort of, that's the thing. Look, here's the thing. The actual problem here that we're running into with this concept is that, like, for instance, specific function. That's not a bodily thing necessarily, even though the body does it. It's actually a spiritual thing. In other words, what it is it's a chance for people to, let's say, express or allow the soul to express through the body. Let's go back to Jimi Hendrix or B.B. King. Those guys, when they played guitar, they expressed through the body, but what they were listening to was some kind of a celestial melody. Okay, something that it's not tied down somewhere. They're making that up, and they're being creative about how they play it and what they're doing with it and so forth at the very moment that they're doing it. I mean, instantly they're actually manipulating those things. And so when we actually are doing something that we do, that's how we do it. Is that it happens in the right now. And in order for that to happen, consciousness can't be involved, because consciousness is a good recorder, but it's not a good right now in real time dealer with things. However, another entity in the brain everybody has, called the self-meta programmer, has been doing that since it was born, since you were born. And it's in there, but the only difference between it and consciousness is that consciousness talks to itself and the self-meta programmer doesn't. Okay? And so what that allows us to do is that allows us to differentiate between talking to ourselves to do something and not talking to ourselves and allowing that other to express through us to do something.
So would that be like when I say, I'm going to do this, and then it doesn't mean anything because all I did was say it. So the only do there is to actually, do the thing.
Right. Well, here's the thing, is that you didn't, there's a way to think about it that says that you have to call intent. Okay, now that doesn't mean that you have some magical entity named intent that you're going to ring up and say, "Hi, can you bring me over a couple of willed actions, please?" Uber can't even get that for you. Okay, so here's the deal with that, is that if you're going to express that kind of an idea, okay, then that kind of idea has to happen in this right now. It has to be happening instantly, which means that it can't be considered while you're doing it. If you consider it first, you're not doing it then, are you?
No.
Okay. In other words, you're planning it out and then doing it. That's not what we call instantaneous or spontaneous or any of those things. You're thinking it out first, okay? And we can always see when somebody does that in the performance, when they've thought, not that it's not planned for them, but they have to be absolutely in the very moment in order to go through all those steps or all those actions that allows that dance or that song or that drawing to take place. Okay. And it doesn't make any difference whether the drawing is on a scale of like could fit on your thumb, or if the drawing is the scale that covers 2 sections. Okay, it's still the same idea. It's what do you do with those 2 sections, or what is your what is your creativity with those 2 sections? What's your creativity with on the thumb? In other words, what is it that you're best at? Do you think about things in a very small, little bitty way? That doesn't mean that you're limited. It just means that you have everything compacted and condensed into a little idea. I had a friend that passed away from Alzheimer's that designed little bitty logo things. I mean, he made his entire living, an entire life making these little logo things like the Barney logo. Okay, and he just dealt with these little concepts. And so he'd come visit my gardens and he'd say, "How in the hell do you do this on this scale?" It's a house, it's not really all that much. Because it's the same design process, right? But it's not necessarily at the same scale. It's the same proportions, but not the same scale. Okay. And I think that what you find is that whenever anybody does anything, that's something that's always true. That the thing that they do is not the same proportions, or maybe even the same flavor, but it has the same kind of care put into it in the here and the now that only can be done in the here and the now. If it's done according to the recipe, it may or may not be new and different and fresh every time. Okay. You can see this sometimes with comedians, for instance. They do a shtick that they would do every time they get on stage, right? But the thing is they have to keep that fresh. They have to be able to do that so that it sounds as though that it's being considered at this very moment, because what they're doing is that they're considering it at this very moment to how they turn that phrase or how they turn that idea for the audience that they're talking to, and that can't be thought about.
No, because you have to read your audience and see where they're at.
Well, here's the thing. What are you going to do? Let's say you've got 100 people in your audience. So are you going to tick off whether you got 100 different ideas going on here? Or are you going to tick off that you're going to look at one guy and you have to talk to him mostly when you're doing the thing, and he's representative of the entire room? Now, all of those ideas you see are well, the reason why they're good ideas is because, or the reason why they're ideas of that nature, let's say it that way, is that what the people are doing is that they're expressing themselves in this right now. Guys who play sports do that. You see that on basketball teams, on football teams, and baseball teams even. I mean, when the ball is hit, some guy goes and runs and he jumps and he extends his arms out way sideways, and he goes off sideways like this, and he catches the ball, and then he gets up and he throws it to first base, and he does that like, and it's there. It's like, how in the hell did that all happen? I mean, you watch it happen in slow motion in the replay, right? But it happens so quickly I mean, the ball was hit, the guy snagged it and picked it up, and he threw it back to first base before the other guy could get there. And the other guy runs fast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how do they do all that? Well, it's because they've practiced it over and over and over, and they're expressing that in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're the best at doing that thing. That's the reason why they're in the bigs, right? Because they can express it that in this moment that way.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can do that, because not everybody is a ball player when they're born. Not everybody,
Gotcha.
not everybody belongs to the ball playing cadre of geographic location, right? In terms of specific function, they just they don't fit there. I mean, some ball players play basketball, some ball players play baseball. It's like Michael Jordan tried to play baseball, and he realized he had to have an entirely different muscle structure to play baseball than he did to play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And he played basketball all of his life, and he got that muscle structure in place.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What a wonderful contrast between what he did. I mean, he did amazing things on the basketball court.
Mm-hmm.
He just godlike. Maybe he was God. I don't know. But when he played baseball, well, it wasn't quite that level of holiness, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
There was some things that were missing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean, he had to go find out. I understand. I'm good. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. It's just that I mean, think about how hard that must have been for him to realize that he couldn't just go and wiggle his nose and play baseball.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different muscle sets.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew, right? Okay, well, you're trying to explain something that you do with your muscle sets and with massage and with helping your family and so forth, as though they're all separate ideas, and I don't think they are.
Okay.
In other words, when you talk about responsibility and obligation, and you apply it to what it is that you do with massage and with your family, it looks like they're different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're not, I don't think. I think that you bring the same intensity to your massage that you do to taking care of people around you. That's my opinion. Now remember that opinions are like noses, everybody got one. Okay, so your opinion would be different than mine probably. But that doesn't mean that I can't point that out so you can find out what that is for you really. Because the fact of the matter is that whatever that is that you do for your family and whatever that is that you do in the massage, it's probably the same thing pretty much at a belief level.
Mm-hmm. It is all taking care of people.
Maybe. Religious people say it this way. They say that they're ministering to the people.
Okay.
And there's a case to be made for that concept in what it is that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you're doing both with the massage and with taking care of your family is you're ministering to people. That doesn't mean that you're getting up on a soapbox saying, now you boys and girls had better behave yourselves. You're going straight to hell. I'm telling you right now, Jesus ain't going to be happy with you at all.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's not ministering. That I don't know what that is. It's kind of funny, but I don't know. Other than that, I don't know what it is. People do it are serious as hell about it. I still don't know what it is. They call it ministering to the people. And maybe that's really the best name for it, because maybe that's their way of helping up those that are most downtrodden. They can reach down, pick them, take a step up. Don't you think so?
I mean, might help them. Some people.
That's right. And so but you would never have thought of what you're talking about, what you do as ministering to people, would you?
No.
And so let's just stop for a moment. What if that were true?
So if that were true, then it would be a similar concept of being able to help people up.
Right. So what are you doing when you give a massage? You're saying, okay, this knot you've got right here, the reason why you've got this right here is because this over here hurts, right? I press on this over here. You got a knot over there, but it's protecting that place where it hurts, where I press on right there. So let me work on this knot. Says, oh, does that place I was pressing on feel better now? I'm like, yes, it does. Oh, how did you do that? I ministered to you.
That could go over either very well or very poorly, depending on who it's said to.
Here's the thing about saying things. See, this is here you go. I mean, what you did is you walked right over there to the very edge of being responsible for the other guy.
Okay.
You're concerned about whether it's going to go over well or not.
Oh.
You're worthless then, because you're doing what somebody else wants, not what you want, not what you do.
Oh. Well, shit.
I don't have to at the moment, but thank you for the invitation.
Okay. All right. So, okay. I'm following.
Okay. See, a lot of people get caught there, I think. Okay. I don't think they're being bad about it. I just don't think they've thought about it like you're going through right now. It's because it's really easy to miss what's actually going on because we think about it consciously. And consciousness just is not big enough to take care of that. Now, please understand, I divide consciousness up to the part where we talk to ourselves. Okay, or where we pay attention to all the little things. Some people think about consciousness from a much broader, they paint consciousness with a broader brush, let's say, okay? For instance, in the psychological people, with those people, what they do is they talk about consciousness as being anything that you are ever aware of. And there is a place where that's true, but there's also a place where it's not. And so because we don't know which one is which, I prefer to simply divide it, not because I'm correct about it, but so that people can think about it, okay? In other words, if I talk to you about, and I say, okay, Lenore, consciously what you're doing is you're giving a massage. Consciously what you're doing is that you're going to help your father-in-law because he's sick. Or you're helping people that are trying to take care of him, and you're helping them cover what they have to do in their life, okay? Now, that's what you're doing consciously. But on an other than conscious level, from a self-meta-programming level, or from the level of even a supra-self meta-programming level, what you're doing is that you're expressing a function of empathy and intuition, okay, which are typically more feminine in nature than specific function and natural mind function. Okay, so you're expressing this empathy. And this is a place where you get into trouble with people even, is that you're brutally honest with yourself. And so sometimes people say, well, you can't be that brutally honest with yourself around me, God damn it, I don't want to hear it.
Pearl clutching.
You've run into that, I bet.
Once or twice today.
That was before 9 o'clock. I know, I got it. Before you got to work, I got it. Okay, so look, here's my point on this. Is not that those people are wrong about anything or right about anything. Okay, it's that's how they see the world. And we could say that they see the world as though it's through consciousness only what they talk to themselves about. Well, that doesn't really take into account that you're responsible for what you say and do, does it?
No.
Let me see if I can show it to you this way.
Okay.
All right. I run into people all the time that say, yeah, well, I do that thing I'm really good at, but I don't want to do that because that means I'd have to do this other thing, and I can't see myself doing that. Okay. Now, what are they doing really? What they're doing is they're denying who they are in a way. Okay, yeah, they can do that thing over there, but because it has this auxiliary thing that also means that they have to do that to get this done, they say, okay, well, I'm not going to do it because of that auxiliary thing. Well, what did you come for then? If you got to do all of the job, not just the part you like. It's like they say about going to the bathroom. The job's not done until the paperwork's so completed, right? Same thing happens in an office. The job isn't done until the paperwork's turned in. It's the same thing. It's the same two-step process, as it were. Okay. Well, that's how we know things, kid. Okay. That's how we can find harmony with other people. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that fall into this category of saying, okay, I have an obligation to me way more than I have an obligation to you. I may have one to you, but I'll bet you that the one I have for you is superseded by the one I have for me. See, the reason why I think it's necessary for me to tell you where the bathroom is because I have an obligation to me to do everything I can do to make sure that your life is as smooth and as easygoing as possible. Even if I have to yell at you about where the damn bathroom is. No, it's not in the kitchen. You get out of the kitchen. It's not going to be there. Really, it never will be. You're not going to find it in the oven or no, not even under the sink. No, get out of there. The bathroom has its own door. I know that's a door, but it's not one that you can fit through, is it, dummy? Why did I call you dummy? Because you're looking in the wrong place or something I'm pointing at. I'm saying it's over there. I'm saying turn around and look here. Look at where I'm pointing. Not my finger. Look at where my finger's pointing. Oh Jesus! Come with me. Here's the bathroom. Look, the door opens. Now go in there. What do you mean? What do you do in there?
You have that conversation a lot, John.
Not about bathrooms, fortunately, but I have that conversation a lot. Yes. And it's not about the kitchen either. It's about lots of other things. Because people have trouble with it. Not being rotten or nothing. They just have trouble seeing that thing. That's it. It's all of it.
Because you can't see what you're looking with.
Right. And so they can't see that they're caught in this thing that they're doing. Right. They just can't see it because they haven't. They don't have that obligation of themselves to identify what's actually real at any given time. They haven't found that obligation for themselves as yet. So that's all. So yeah, they don't see it the same as you do because, well, they don't think the way that you do. And ain't that a great thing? Can you imagine having two Lenores running around northeastern Pennsylvania working 97 hours a day? I can't imagine that. I don't want to imagine that.
Well, that would be a little much.
Watching one is enough to tire me out. So no, I don't think so. So you with or not?
I believe I am with.
Okay. So what else can I talk to you about then? Or does that kind of cover the subject?
I think that actually covered the subject really well and tied it up with a bow.
Wow, with a bow.
With a bow.
Okay. All right. Well, then did this help you at all? Is the question.
I believe that it did.
Yeah. As look, the family can sometimes be, and friends in particular, can sometimes be really hard on you because they say, well, you should be thinking the way I think. Well, no, you shouldn't. If you think like they think, then that turns you into a sheep, or maybe a cow. But it's a herding animal in any event, right? You don't want to be identified as a herding animal. You'd rather be identified as an individual, yeah. Yeah. So you want to express how you play the guitar, or how you play the saxophone, or how you play the piano, or how you draw, or how you paint, or how you bake Toll House cookies. But they have to be your expression, not somebody else's. It can only be yours. And if you do that, I don't think it gets any better than that, really.
No, because then I'd be doing me.
Wow. You think anybody else can know how to do that?
No.
But yet you sometimes get concerned because other people are telling you that what you're doing isn't correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, kiddo, you gotta have thicker skin than that.
It's their opinion.
That's right. And it's like you don't have to rub their nose in it or anything. It's just that you have to say, okay, thank you very much for your help, but I owe this because I owe this, and this is something that I have to do. And I'm not asking you to understand it, and so don't bitch at me about it. I have to do what I have to do this because this is my life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how anybody can really argue with it. I mean, they will, but I don't see how that they have an argument that stands anywhere.
Mm-hmm. I think the other piece and where I get caught is trying to insist that people have to think the same way as me. And that's not
Well,
fair.
it isn't that. It's that we all, I don't think that we insist on that as much. I don't think that's really where the error is. I don't think
Okay.
we really realize that people think differently than we do. I think it always comes as a surprise. We say, well, why aren't you thinking the way I do about this? Damn, doesn't everybody think this way? Everybody I know thinks this way. And they say, well, no, I don't think that way at all. And you say, how dare you? And they say, well, I don't know, because I do it. You understand?
I understand.
Okay.
Back a while ago during the patio chats, you brought up with me, there's other people on this call, and I didn't get what you were saying. I do now.
Well, you're figuring it out. See, I had an obligation to tell you that because you're my friend, right? So
Right.
I can't turn my back and say, well, just go ahead and fuck it all up. I don't give a damn. Who the fuck are you? So I got to say, kid, you got to pay attention here to this thing. Now, did that piss you off or make you feel bad or anything like that? Maybe. But you know what? I don't really care. It's not that I don't care about you or not that I don't care that you get pissed off or your feelings get hurt or whatever. It's that I may not. Because I have an obligation to you to say, hey, kiddo, pay attention here to a broader brush when you paint. That little thing you're using like that, I mean, that's really nice to do, like Chinese lettering. But if you're going to paint a house, it's going to take forever. You can't use that little brush. You get a wider one. It's got to be job specific, actually. And so when you're talking to yourself in front of lots of other people, sometimes somebody's going to say, hey, what are you doing? Okay.
Okay.
I mean, they owe it to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Let me give you one more just to make sure that I underscore this for you because I know that you struggle with this one.
Okay.
Okay. So your longtime significant other person still has the same job he's always had, right?
No, he doesn't.
Oh, he changed it.
Yes.
Did the sky fall?
No.
Okay. How long did it take you to tell him that?
Oh, wait, tell him what do you mean?
That he can actually do something besides what he was doing.
Oh, a very long time.
Uh-huh. Did you have an obligation to keep on sucking till you did succeed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, took a while to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
he got here.
see, that's the thing. It doesn't make any difference how he got there. It's that he got there.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the grand accomplishment for both you and him.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you fulfilled your obligation and now he's fulfilling his obligations.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And you're both being responsible for yourselves, not for somebody else, but for you. But and to do that, you have to fulfill your obligations to other people. You have to call them that. You're not responsible for the other people. You have an obligation to help them out.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, before we go, please remember again to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon to stay up to date on all of the latest videos.
Yep.
And to learn more about the topics that we're discussing, we offer a range of workshops like the Dyad Workshop. The information for that will be below. And make sure that you follow us on Facebook and check out our Patreon.
Yep. By the way, speaking of Patreon, I think something that's going up on Patreon very, very quickly is session 1 of program theory. And I think that that's been divided up into several parts. And you might even be able to see some of the outtakes show up on YouTube here and there. But it's a playlist, and you'll be able to buy the whole class set. And there'll be, I think there's 10 of them altogether. And so what that does is gives folks an introduction to, well, how programming in the human biocomputer works, really. It's not the only way it works, it's just giving you a way to look at it. And it's giving you some of the basic structures that you have to use to look at it. So you figure out what's true about what the brain does and what isn't so much. Okay?
Okay.
So those are useful things to know about, because I know when I found out about them, it changed how I thought a lot. I mean, a lot.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, because what happens is that we don't often stop and consider how programming works, and so to actually have a sustained explanation about why things work the way they do is pretty useful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would agree.
Right.
All right. So
Okay, well then,
hope that you all come back to see us again. And
I have no doubts.
I hope that everyone in the United States has a happy Thanksgiving.
Well, of course they will. Some people even in Mexico are going to have a happy Thanksgiving, but they're all gringos. The Mexicans don't care. They have their own set of holidays, and they have kind of the same stuff. So they just do it different. Kind of fun to watch. Yeah. Both the gringos and the Mexicans, how they party down.
Okay.
Good. Thanks a lot. We'll see you later then. How's that?
Sounds good. Good night.
All right. Good night.